Hello and welcome. You're watching The Buck Stops Here and I'm Barkha Dutt. The big story today is Sri Sri Ravi Shankar versus the future of the Yamuna River. Is Sri Sri on the back foot amid rumours that even the Prime Minister after the President may not possibly attend what was tipped to be the World Culture Festival? The National Green Tribunal has not yet given its final verdict, but it is clear that there are at least two big controversies arising out of the Art of Living Foundation's decision to organize this event. One is the damage to the ecosystem, and two, several questions have been raised as to whether it was appropriate to pull in the Indian Army to build pontoons and bridges for what is essentially a private event. Is this the art, in fact, of misusing the military? That will be our big debate on the program tonight. Coming up later in the program, the Indian Air Force makes history inducting the first 3 women who will be flying fighter jets come 2016. We'll be talking to the 3 women who are all set to make history later in the program. Alright, let's get started with our top story. Amid the many controversies that are engulfing the World Culture Festival that is scheduled to be held on the banks of the Yamuna later this week, one is of course the damage to the ecosystem, but the second is whether it's appropriate to pull in the military to in fact build pontoons and bridges for a private event. Sources say that the army had expressed its reservations and its opposition for its soldiers to be against its soldiers being used for this, but they were overruled and the Ministry of Defence insisted that there were security dimensions to this requirement. My colleague Sudhi Ranjan Sen has more. Sudhi, give us a sense of what the MOD is saying. We do know from our army sources that the army is not happy about this. They do not believe that this is what the military should be pulled in for. And at a time when there is a raging debate around nationalism and patriotism, I think it becomes even more curious that soldiers should be pulled in for a private event.
Well, I mean, what I'm being told by my sources, a couple of things. First, initially the army did ask that whether they should go and do it, but then they were told that yes, the army should go and do it, because at that point of time, both the President and the Prime Minister were supposed to go. Mind you, this entire thing is happening in the 3rd week of February when these discussions are happening. So it was then, the army was then instructed by the government that yes, you should go ahead and do it. Furthermore, what we are told is initially there was a decision, or the talk was around 5 bridges, then the discussions happened, it was cut down to 2, and now a 3rd bridge is being built by the Indian Army, of course, after being told by the government. Now, this is not the first time that the army is being used, and this is what the government is saying. In fact, the army being asked to build these kind of bridges date back to 1987, when Yani did its conference on the banks of the Yamuna, again the Yamuna, and with the backdrop of the Taj Mahal. At that point of time, too, the army had been asked to not only build 2 pontoon bridges like this time, but also do roads. Besides, also what the ministry and the government is saying is that, in several occasions, whether it's the 1982 Asian Games or whether it is the Commonwealth Games, the army has been willy-nilly involved. And also because the involvement of the Prime Minister and the President was thought of, then, the blue book comes in, or the security book comes in, and therefore the normal security concerns will have to be addressed. And who else can do it, build these bridges, exit ways, but the army, because they are equipped unlike the other civil agencies. Barkha.
But Sudhi, the fact is that the Commonwealth Games and the World Culture Festival are not exactly analogies. The Yani concert, yes, but the Commonwealth Games was a state event. Today the Defence Minister invoked the analogy of the Kumbh Mela, but again it's not a private event. And coming amid reports that a food park that is run by Baba Ramdev will now be protected by the CISF, there is a sense that these spiritual gurus are being mixed up with the services, and that's not necessarily healthy. So how is the MOD reacting to that, Sudhi?
Well, what the MOD is saying is that, it is, what they're saying is this is not a private event per se, because of the numbers it is gathering, because the sense that the MOD has, or the numbers that have been given up to the government is huge. It's at least 15 to 20 lakh people are supposed to gather out there. And so that is huge. Besides, initially when these were happening, both Prime Minister and President were supposed to go. Now, when these two, the top 2 of the country, go to an area, normally there are security security concerns. And those security concerns will have to be addressed whether it is a private function or a public function. Besides, what the government is saying, that can the government, even if it is a private function, can the government allow a stampede like situation? Can the government allow security not to be there even if the Prime Minister and the President is not going? Because ultimately it is the responsibility of the government to take care of the people. So these are the reasons that we are getting from the ministry, from the government. Barkha.
All right, so stay with us. Let's look at the other dimension now. Siddharth Pandey has been tracking that. Siddharth, a number of questions from the Green Tribunal for the various government players involved in this, from the DDA, the Delhi Development Authority, to the Central Ministry, to the Delhi government. Where do matters stand at this moment? And there also seems to be a great deal of confusion because the Art of Living Foundation now saying that only 2 lakh people expected at one time, though their advertisements clearly said 30 to 35 lakh people.
Well, that's right, Barkha. In fact, what's really happening is literally passing the buck. Each government authority really saying that it's not really what we were told. The Delhi Development Authority, which actually owns the land, who had given the permission, actually told the National Green Tribunal that when the permission was sought, we did not know about the kind of scale of things, and ultimately it's for the Art of Living to answer things. Today, the Delhi Pollution Control Committee, when they were asked, they said, look, they came to us for permission, but we don't give permission for cultural programs. That's not our mandate. However, even we did not realize the scale of things. So it seems like everyone's literally passing the buck. The big question is, will this event still go forward? The NGT, of course, still yet to come out with its final conclusion. And we are hoping that tomorrow, when they hear the matter, they will come to a decision. But many people perhaps saying it's been left too late in the day. This should have been caught by the agencies themselves, the agencies which had given permission. The fact that this permission could not have been given is what the environmentalists argue. So all of these points before the NGT, tomorrow they're going to be hearing these sides for one final time and hopefully arrive at a decision.
And Siddharth, the Aam Aadmi Party now seems to be sort of saying we know nothing about this, even though one of its ministers is listed on the reception committee. Similarly, we're now hearing very ambivalent responses from the central government as well. So what are you picking up? What will the Environment Ministry be saying before the Green Tribunal tomorrow?
Well, the Environment Ministry has been asked tough questions as well, saying that even if you are not party to the case, was it not your duty to go and make sure that if a violation was taking place, what did you do about it? Same questions been put to the Water Ministry, that you are the protector of all rivers. What were you doing if this violation is taking place? So they got tough questions they'll have to answer tomorrow before the NGT. The Delhi government is an official partner in this. They, of course, are saying that, look, we don't even own the land. However, we support this project. So clearly, I think all the agencies literally are passing the buck right now. At the heart of the issue, of course, is the Yamuna, and the question perhaps that could this have been located at some other point in the city? Did they have to hold this function on the banks of the Yamuna, a river which has been actually described as a drain by the various courts in the country?
And Sudhi, very, very quickly, the President has declined to attend. There are reports that the Prime Minister may do the same. What are you hearing about that?
Well, the latest that I've picked up, Barkha, is that the government or whether the Prime Minister goes or does not go will depend on what Siddharth was saying is that the decision of the NGT, whatever it decides, it seems that will prompt the final decision from the Prime Minister's office on whether he goes or not. Barkha.
All right, I think let's get straight into the debate now. Let's introduce our panel. Thank you, Sudhi and Siddharth. So two different dimensions really to this debate. Why did Sri Ravi Shankar not just voluntarily agree to shift this to another part of the capital? I think that's the big question. And why would he insist till the very bitter end that this is where he wants to hold this event? The damage to the ecosystem and the potential misuse of the military, some would suggest, is what we're looking at on the program today. Let me introduce our panel. With me in the studio is Anand Arya. Anand Arya is a petitioner. He's a well-known environmental activist. He's the petitioner in this case who is saying that this event should not be allowed to be held on the plains of the Yamuna. We're joined by Shaina NC, a spokesperson for the BJP. We're also joined by Professor R. Vaidyanathan. He's a professor of finance at IIM Bangalore. With me in the studio is Colonel Ajay Shukla, formerly with the military, now a defense analyst. Also joining me is General Raj Kadian, who's been a former Vice Chief of the Army Staff. And we'll have representatives from the Art of Living Foundation, as well as other environmental activists in just a moment. Let me start with you, Mr. Arya. what is the big takeaway from the hearing today? In many ways, the question being put back to you is, why did the petitioner come so late? This permission was given for this event, if I'm not wrong, in December of 2015. They're asking, why did you not wake up earlier?
You see, the point is, do I have to wake up at all?
What does that mean?
Is it my job? Is it my job when the state does not do its job? In this case, it's the DDA,
Yeah.
which should have been aware of its legal and statutory duty, and also the duties that were assigned to it or under the order of the NGT in January 2015.
Yeah.
Now, people like us, I mean, we are trying our best to save the environment to the extent that we can do
Yeah.
as a citizen.
Yeah.
I am no government agency, I
Yeah.
don't have a big staff, I don't run an NGO
Yeah.
where we have these kind of things on a constant basis. Now, when I can speak about myself personally,
Yeah.
yes, I have been hearing murmurs, but we never really knew, I really never knew the extent of it. It was only end of January, early February, when I passed through the DND that I saw this kind of structure coming in. So it is only when the things come on the ground, above the ground, that people like us would become aware of it. And the moment we became aware of it, it takes a few days to draft a simple petition either. So on 8th of February, the complaint has been made by my co-petitioner, Mr.
Yeah.
Manoj Mishra. Then on the 4 days later, I was there.
So if you had to describe in one sentence, and I have in fact the panel that was appointed by the National Green Tribunal and some of the very, very damaging findings that it has put forth in the public domain. But to viewers watching this, who may say to you, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, this is not
Yeah,
what I
sure.
think, that a river should be part of a city's life, that it should be woven into a city's life, and that should include functions by the river. This is something you hear all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what would you say to that?
No, I would say to it that yes, people are doing, there are a lot of comments coming from all quarters at different points of time. Even as early as 2006, which is almost 10 years ago, that I had written a letter to the President of India, the Prime Minister, and it suggested almost the same structure which the NGT ordered in 2015. So I was very happy that yes, somebody has made efforts, like a person like Manoj Mishra, who did a lot of work, and finally got NGT to put in perspective the exact things that need to be done to revive Yamuna. And I can tell you, I have studied that judgment not once but 2, 3, 4 times.
Yeah.
And I am sure that if Yamuna in Delhi is to revive, it will happen only when the directions of the NGT are followed in complete, in toto. And if one exception is made today for this event, I can tell you it's like a balloon that will be punctured. And I am telling you why this is something which should not have been permitted in the very first.
Okay, so that is the environmental perspective, and we'll debate it in a moment from now. But no less discussed, Ajay, has been the role of the military. The fact that the army has actually been called in here to build pontoons. We have no official word, or we have nothing in writing that the army objected or expressed reservations, but we certainly know that they were against it, and that was overruled. As a military man, what does this deployment say to you? You heard Sudhi saying that there have been precedents in the past. There was the Yani concert in Agra where the army was also used. Those are the examples being bandied about. The minister today has spoken about the Kumbh Mela. Others are quoting examples of the Commonwealth Games.
Well, I'm surprised that the misuse of the army in the past is being used as a precedent for misuse of the army today. But what is important is what are the exact rules and the actual regulations that govern the use of the military in events like this. There's a document, a very large book called Regulations for the Army, which lays down all these things. And I'm going to read out volume 1, para 301, page 100 from Regulations for the Army. Troops may be called upon to perform in aid of the civil authorities any of the following duties: maintenance of law and order, maintenance of essential services, assistance during natural calamities, and any other type of assistance which may be needed by the civil authorities. Now, this is clearly being done in the last case. So, this is the government exercising its discretion. It is legally correct, but there's an ethical dimension to this.
And what is the ethical dimension?
The ethical dimension is that if you use the army once for a private citizen, a spiritual and cultural event, how can you not use the army for subsequent
But
events
you heard the
like
argument
this?
that it is for the security of the Prime Minister and the lakhs of people expected.
Building bridges, they are very skillfully mixing up the aspect of security with building bridges, because bridges are not being built for security. Security is still being handled by the Delhi police. Just to give you an example, at Puttaparthi, when the Sai Baba was alive, they used to routinely hold functions where 5 lakh people came. They never even asked the local police to come in to control those things, leave alone the military. Tomorrow, if the Jamaat-e-Islami or let's say Dera Sacha Sauda or the Nirankari Baba wants to hold a function on the floodplain, with what face is the government going to say no?
So you're saying
we
it's a
will
dangerous
not?
precedent?
It's a completely unacceptable precedent.
General Kadian, would you agree? I'm going to come back to the environmental dimensions, but really we're looking at both dimensions here. The damage to the ecosystem and whether it is appropriate for soldiers to be building bridges for what is essentially a private event. General Kadian.
Barka, there are 2 dimensions to the whole issue.
Yeah.
One is we consider it from the government point of view. As Ajay has very rightly brought out, there is no national calamity, there is no disaster, there is no law and order problem. So the government can be legitimately questioned. They can be questioned in the media like we are doing now. They can be questioned in the tribunal. They can be questioned in the parliament by the opposition party. The other is the army's point of view.
Yes.
Army is a national resource. It is under the authority of the elected civilian government. It is legally obligated to carry out the instructions given by the civil authority. Yes, as a professional head, the army chief has the right to go and express his reservation, which I am sure he would have done if they were reservations.
Yes.
But once a decision is taken, his reservations are not made in public. He does it discreetly at his own channel.
Yes.
And this is also not the first time army has not only been used for international events like the Commonwealth Games and Asiad 1982. This event is also international. It has also been used for national events like Hyderabad Games in 2002 were conducted by the army. So
what's
this
your
is
point?
not a religious event like the Kumbh Mela. This is a cultural event. Army should look at it positively. In peacetime, the army does its training. Making pontoon bridges in peacetime is a part of training. They have to go far off, or they have to use a dry obstacle, an imaginary river. Here they are getting a training time right in the heart of the capital. I think this is also a plus point. This also proves that the government has the confidence in the army's ability to deliver at a short notice, which it does not have on any other institution.
But the point is that
It
what
will
the army
also
is
help
for?
the army in-
I'm sure it has the confidence, but is that what the army is for? But it's an interesting counter perspective. Ajay, I'll allow you a quick interjection there, and then I want to really go to the others on the other dimensions. Ajay.
I don't think it is
Yeah,
at
it
all
is.
acceptable to equate the Asian Games or the Commonwealth Games, which are national functions,
Yeah.
things that reflect on India's organizational ability, with a private, spiritual or cultural event like this. Where do you draw the line? That's the question. I think that's perfectly acceptable to use the army for this thing. It is a national resource, but primarily it is a national resource meant to safeguard the security of this country. And we know from numerous armies in other countries as well that when you start diluting that and using the army for other functions, its primary function starts getting eroded.
But you heard
That's
the
what we
general
need.
that it's good practice. It's an actual river.
I have never heard a joke like this in my life, that this is good practice because the Yamuna is there. The Yamuna can be used for training even without Sri Ravi Shankar's function to be
Okay,
held.
Shaina, I'm sure you're listening to all of this carefully. I think one of the curious things is why we do not have a very clear response from the BJP. In fact, tomorrow the Environment Ministry will have to explain its position to the Green Tribunal. The BJP seems to be hedging its bets after throwing its weight behind it, after the Ministry of Defence actually overruling the army's reservations and saying the army has to go in. Suddenly you seem to be all in a panic because the president is withdrawn. Now we don't know if the Prime Minister will attend. There's also a perception that the BJP is mixing up spiritual gurus with the services, is being soft on a Sri Sri Ravi Shankar at the cost of the environment. And now you're panicking because you think the PR sort of around this is going against you.
Barkha, I think there are 2-3 aspects to this debate, and let's be very clear about it. This is probably the largest world cultural festival which we are having in India, and in that sense that is also an area which I think sets a certain kind of value system for society at large. The fact that from what I've read in the media they were anticipating 35 lakh people and a lot of people from overseas as well to set in a good value system, a spirituality, etc. The cause is noble. Now, I think there are 2 other aspects that you raised. One is the environment, which is clearly an area of concern for one and all. And I think the NGT and whether the art of living is adhering to the norms, etc. The environmental ministry, which is going to give its viewpoint tomorrow to is also imperative. And from what I gather and what I've read about the spokespersons of the art of living, suggesting that they have said,
Shaina, everything that you like about this event could be as true if it was held in the Ramlila Maidan. Shaina,
I'll go.
Shaina, 1 minute, Professor Vaidyanathan, please, 1 minute.
May I just finish?
Well, we're coming to everybody one by one. So
No, I don't think, why should I be sitting here?
Well, like everybody else is, sir, there are many other people who haven't spoken either yet. We're coming to everybody one by one. Just hold on for half a second.
I thought you totally forgot about Bangalore.
Not at all. Never. Just give us half a second. Shaina, my question quite simply is, why can this event not be held at the Ramlila Maidan or any other ground? Why does it have to be held?
You need to ask the art of living that.
I will, but I'm asking you because the BJP is backing this event.
You've had the Delhi government that has also given the permissions that are required.
Agreed.
There was another point which was raised vis-a-vis the army. I think there is a discretionary power as well, where if we feel that it is in the interest of the nation to have so many people secured coming for a global event, and this is not the first time. You've had other examples that you narrated yourself, whether it's the Kumbh, the Commonwealth Games,
but those are not private events,
etc.
Those are not private events.
So I think that the fact
those are not private events.
The fact of the matter is, this is not a private event either if you view it in totality, because you've got access to every single citizen that chooses to be a part of this big cultural event.
Okay, let me just take this quickly to Professor Vaidyanathan.
These are the various facets to the debate.
Okay, Professor Vaidyanathan, you have tweeted that you believe that the media is conducting a narrative which creates a controversy out of nothing. That is what your tweets are suggesting. Do you not believe that the tribunal appointed a panel, and the panel findings are extremely serious when you look at the damage to the ecosystem? I'll just read out 2 points to you from the NGT panel findings. The entire area,
I have read that.
But for the benefit of our viewers, the entire area of the Yamuna floodplain leveled flat. Small water bodies have been filled up and natural vegetation removed. Most trees in the area removed, birds have vanished. These are only 2 or 3 of the alarming findings of the NGT panel. So why are you blaming the media, Professor?
One, I would like to first take up the army issue.
Yes.
There was one Benny Hinn who came, spiritual healer, evangelist,
Yes.
to Bangalore.
Yes.
The entire Air Force base was allotted to him for 5 days. And no aircraft, Air Force aircraft could take on or take off. 2005. Nobody questioned that, nobody talked about it. If a rock festival or a rock music or a metal music has been organized by a Britisher or an American in Yamuna, nobody would have questioned that.
Why do you say that? Why do you say?
No, I am telling you. See, February 2015 onward, this whole thing is going on. I have been to ashram. I am not a AOL member or anything.
Okay.
I have been to their ashram here several times.
Okay.
I don't think they would have damaged anything in the ecosystem because they are very eco-friendly.
But the damage is
Whatever
already
I
done.
understand.
The damage is already done per
There
the
are
findings of the
no
NDTV
why.
panel.
You see, when the marriage is tomorrow, Bharat is starting. You are suddenly creating issues. That is what I call.
But better to call off a bad marriage
that
than
is
to be
what I
stuck in
call-
one, sir. Even if it's
That
on the
is
eve
what
of
I
the
call
marriage.
the media creating issues.
Sir, even on the eve of a marriage, better to call off
There
a
are
bad
always
marriage than
some
to live in it.
do-gooders in Delhi, I know, who will, 5 days, 6 days before, they would like to become popular.
Okay.
That year, not
You see,
even
the
1 year,
whole argument is to
2015,
cast
2017.
aspersions rather than address the issues. You
What,
just
of
cast
course, I will
aspersions.
do that. Because there are so many do-gooders sitting in Delhi who do not understand what is happening in the country.
This
Sir,
is happening
And
in
you are
Delhi.
talking about Kumbh Mela is not a government festival. Kumbh Mela is a religious affair. Army comes in, army constructs pontoon bridges. And somebody told about Puttaparthi Sai Baba. I think he has never visited that area. There were 2 large meetings of him which were assisted by the police and the army.
Absolutely incorrect.
I think we
Absolute
completely missed the
falsehood.
Okay,
wood
I'll allow
for the
Ajay to
trees.
come in there and then I want to introduce Bharti and Saraswati.
You
Quickly
see,
make your
this
point.
is
yeah.
No,
just
this Jaipur
hurling.
airport,
This is just
Air Force
hurling
base
complete
was allotted.
fabrications. The Air Force base was shut down for 5 days. Absolutely false. This never happened. Puttaparthi
You go
was
back, sir.
used by the
You were in the army.
army
I'm
was
very
used in
astonished that you
Puttaparthi.
did
Has
not know
never
this.
been used in Puttaparthi. You can just come and keep throwing out allegations and
for all these
insinuations
links,
and
but one doesn't
ascribe
want to.
motives to everybody. That becomes an answer
No,
to the issues, the
this
substantive
Jaipur
issues that are being
airport
raised.
thing is very well known. That time the chief
Okay,
minister
but
defended it,
but
telling
the
that
point is,
Benny
Professor
Hinn is going
Vaidyanathan,
to
if it's happened
remove
in
all
the
the
past,
blindness of people and
sir, now let me get a word in. If it's happened in the past, should it happen again? That still remains a valid question.
No, this
Now,
is-
one minute,
no,
one
that is
minute,
a
one minute,
different
one
type
minute.
of a argument.
Okay, now let me
No,
introduce.
you are first the media started
Sir, media
appearing
bashing is
that
in
this is the
fashion.
first time
That's
in
a
the
separate.
country this is happening.
Sir, I know your
No,
views on the media. We
see
can
the
debate that
TRP
separately.
driven media,
Sir, 1 minute. I
which
have
is
to.
trying to set up debates in this country,
Sir, then
started telling that as if army came in first, which is not true. Army has been assisting in several areas.
Okay,
and
I've
he
taken
read
your
the
point. I've
manual.
taken your point.
He
Now
should have
I
read
need-
it carefully.
Okay, thank you. Now I
Law
want.
and order is
Sir,
one of the major areas.
Sir, 1 minute,
See,
please.
when there are some 10 to 12 lakh people assembled in a place, law and order is
But,
an issue.
but now you've made your point. Let me open your views to the others. We've got Saraswati Nath.
No, then.
Sir, I have
no,
to
let's
move on
come
now.
to the
I have
third
to move on
issue.
now. I have to move on. I'll come back to you. Saraswati Nath is a lawyer for the Art of Living Foundation, and Bharti Chaturvedi is the director of the Chintan Environmental Research and Action Group. Bharti, you have been advocating now for a long time that this event must not take place. You've heard the other perspective. You've heard Professor Vaidyanathan saying if this was a rock concert, if this was anything else, people like you would not have opposed it.
Well, I don't agree at all, because I think there's been a lot of opposition to a lot of previous things. In fact, Anand is right here, and he will tell you that before we all started talking about Mr. Shankar's private party, we were actually...
Mr. Shankar, you mean Sri Ravi Shankar's
Well,
private
yeah,
party,
I
yes.
mean, I'm assuming his name is Mr. Shankar and I'm getting it right, but correct me if he has another name. What I'm saying is that there has been a lot of conversation around Akshardham temple being on the riverbed. It's actually very dangerous, not only for the environment, but actually because you have huge chances of the floodplains no longer being able to hold the water that floods over, and we'll completely be drowned. We've learned nothing from Chennai, and we're repeating this in this case. And moreover, there've been, I don't think that there's been no opposition. We are opposing it. We don't mind. Let Sri Ravi Shankar hold his event anywhere else, but there's a concept called carrying capacity. When a city cannot hold so many people, give this kind of infrastructure, then you don't hold it. You certainly won't invite 10,000 people into your living room. You can only have a few. So I think we're all absolutely appalled that our city is being broken up into pieces.
And the single biggest damage to the Yamuna, to the floodplain, is what?
I think the fact that we've completely knocked down the reeds and the grass and all of that, because this is not a forest. He doesn't even understand that an ecosystem can actually look like what it looks like. There were farmers using that beautiful alluvial soil in one part. In part of the 1,000 acres, there's another part which has just reeds, very few trees. It's marshy. That is what a wetland is. And I do want to say that right next door was the Okla Bird Sanctuary. It still is, 10 minutes walk.
Yeah.
And the NGT was actually considering not allowing any development in that catchment area, much to the horror of a lot of house owners, to protect that ecosystem. And right here, a few months later, we've forgotten all about that ecosystem.
So let me get a counter perspective from Saraswati. Saraswati, one of the new things that has emerged today is the Art of Living actually saying we're only expecting 2 lakh people at a time. But your advertisements actually speak about 35 lakhs.
Yes, Barkha, I'd like to quickly get your attention onto 2-3 things. First and foremost, when we call it a private party, it is not so. Today, when we actually work on prisoners' rehabilitation, we go to Tihar, we go in for a peace dialogue in Iraq or in Colombia. So once again, this is definitely not a private party.
But that's
once
not
again,
what's happening here.
Possibly, I'm telling you, it is once again to reinforce that spirit of selfless service back to the society, to the nation. Today, when we say Vasudev Kutumbakam, it is definitely not a private party, and I take exception to that. Today, is just once again
But
to
is it a private event? You may not call it a party, but is it a private event?
Definitely not. We don't have an entry fee. Anybody and everybody is just trickling into that area, sitting over there, enjoying the custom festivities, enjoying whatever is. It's just reinforcement.
But privately organized.
Privately organized. See, the volunteers are not private possessions of Art of Living. All of us in our capacity, we are adding on from a professional front or whatever we can do, be it a homemaker, be it a professional, be it somebody in job.
But are the numbers 2 lakhs or are the numbers 35 lakhs as your advertisement
Very good
say?
question. Barkha, coming to that, see, today in the court there was a debate about this. Initially, 1 year back when we sought permission to keep this kind of a thing, looking at the presence in 157 countries, we estimated, looking at the enthusiasm of the people wanting to descend into India and participate in this, we possibly thought, and looking back in 2006 when we had a similar program in Bangalore, we did have presence.
Why is it so important to hold it on the banks of the Yamuna? Why can't you hold it somewhere else?
Absolutely, that is what we. In fact, I can also call it a joke. See, it is the joke of the fact that the whole belt has a very strong stench of methane emission over there. It takes the heart to bring the dignitaries from 155 countries and assemble them and showcase India from here. The definite intention behind that was Barkha, because in 2010 we started Meri Delhi, Meri Yamuna. Today, once again, we want to bring the attention of Delhi into River Yamuna.
Quick interjection there.
You see, holding this event by drawing attention of the people that Yamuna is today emanating methane. This event is not the purpose. This is not culture. Drawing attention to the methane gases is not culture. It's not a world culture festival. There is nothing to be festive about it. What is being done is what NGT had in 2015 put a ban on it. It said that in the 25-year flood level, there will be no construction, there will be no activity. In fact, they've used the word no activity. Now, this lies right within this. And the impact of this, pardon my saying this, that it is probably the lie of the year. The permission which has been granted, which is on piece of paper, is about, let us say, at a maximum of 100 acres, which is maybe 50 hectares, which is about 125 acres.
Okay.
Now, what is on their website is 1,000 acres. And what invitation that I received, and I calculated the area of the, where the gates are there, on the periphery. That area works out to 2,700 acres.
Okay.
Now, let me tell you what the impact of this is. The real impact, which unfortunately is not mentioned in the experts' report also, and which is what worries me.
Which is?
Which is the amount of recharging capacity of the floodplain that will be adversely affected. It is a well-known fact that on a 10,000 square meter, which is 1 hectare, the charging capacity of whatever is the rain is about 30 to 40%.
Okay.
So, if we are just talking about 30%, what we are getting from 1 hectare is 300 cubic meters of water. So, spread it over 2,700 or whatever number you want to do it on 2,700 at a ridiculous price of 15 paise. The value of that water is 50 crores, is 48.6 crores. Now, Supposing for 1 year we don't get this water recharge because of the compacting that has been done.
Yeah.
So for 1 year we have lost.
Yeah.
If it happens for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, just multiply the amount of damage. Now this is an ecological damage which you will not be, after 5 years you will not have, do what you like, you will not be able to regenerate it. Exactly the same thing happens on the ecosystem, which Bharti said.
Can I just Saraswati
now
respond?
Another lie.
Sir, I'm on limited time. Quick response, then I want to go back to Ajay.
See, today definitely there are people having the expertise behind. I have Bharti this side, I have Anandji this side.
Yeah.
Please understand that when we go forward and seek permission, right, when we go on the site, what is being spoken about, we filled up the wetlands and we kind of completely did away with the vegetation. And today, Bharti, my friend, she's saying, there was some there's some farming happening over there. What I want to bring it, that everything is very clearly visible on the Google Earth map. And one can see that what was exactly on that land.
But Ravi Shankar had appealed for people to stop using firecrackers on Diwali. There's this old tweet of him that is being recirculating. Today, why would you, I am not understanding, why does it have to be at this place when there is so much concern and so much anxiety about the damage to the ecosystem?
Barkha,
why are you adamant?
Actually, what I can see the whole thing, it's actually that, art of living is actually being used as an umbrella to bring an attention to an issue which was already kind of burning in the hindsight.
Okay,
Definitely.
Okay, let's come back to Ajay and General Kadian. You heard what Professor Vaidyanathan said. This has all happened before none of you did anything.
Completely.
None of you said anything.
First of all, Jakkar, that airfield that he cited where that concert was held, is a civilian airfield. It is not an Air Force airfield. This is a complete fabrication, this example. Secondly, this indignation that you're seeing, that this art of living is doing this, and it's this indignation of do-gooders who believe that because they believe that they are doing good work, and in many cases they probably are as well, the rules no longer apply to them. There are a set of norms that govern the employment of the military in this country, and it's one of our few functional institutions. Let us not dilute those norms. Let us not start using the military for things like this, because you're opening the doors to precedents that you don't want to set. It doesn't matter how good the organization is. There are more substantive issues involved here. The floodplains of the Yamuna are involved. The reputation of the military or the use of the military on unauthorized tasks is involved. Let's deal with that.
General Kadian, do you want to respond to that?
Barkha, 2 points, very brief one. One, all these concerns being expressed about environment and other things are very legitimate. But this is our internal debate, whether it is a private event or it is a public event or a national event is known only to us. This is a world event. People coming from all over the world, 3.5 million, they consider it as an Indian event. Indian prestige is involved. The government should and will do everything to make sure that things go on smoothly. India is an emerging power.
But sir, isn't
it is very
Indian prestige
unfortunate.
also about saving your rivers? Why is there no prestige of the country internationally in saving your rivers and your floodplains?
Barkha, I am with that concern, and let the tribunal say no. It will be no. I am not questioning that.
Okay.
I am taking the larger issue that India is an emerging power. For every such event, if we keep the event, the very existence in doubt till the last minute, it is doing no good to our
Okay, let me get Bharti
reputation.
there
Number
and then
two.
Shaina and Professor Vaidyanathan. Bharti, go ahead.
So I actually want to say that I'm asking the art of living and Mr. Shankar also that where is your own moral accountability? I mean, here we're talking about permissions being given and all of these kinds of very legal matters, and we have people bravely fighting to protect an earlier NGT order. But where is your own moral accountability? Just because you have the clout, why should you do it? What about understanding? What about looking at the wrong that you're doing? As far as the methane and the stinking Yamuna goes, many of us go there quite often, and we actually don't find it stinking. We go bird watching almost every Sunday and spend several hours there. So I don't think that a public space, the mountains, the rivers, the fields, the grasslands of this country belong to all of us, So we really can't have a private sect like this
But
move
you
in
have
and
heard
clean
the
it up.
argument that in a lot of the great cities of the world, the river or the water body is woven into the life of the city. And people say that hasn't happened with the Yamuna. There is an argument that comes from the art of living people that maybe a festival like this, I'm playing devil's advocate here, this is not what I think, could help doing that.
Well, you know, it is actually woven into a lot of lives. If you look at the akhadas, if you look at the washermen, if you look at many of us, you know, Jamna ji and all of that, if you look at how many people celebrate, I would talk about the middle classes of Delhi, I would talk about the poor, how many people actually go out and enjoy the wilderness to the limited extent it's there. I don't think a private party needs to be so self-righteous and actually believe that no one has looked at the Yamuna before. I mean, Manoj Mishra has actually been fighting for it for so long and is drawing attention. I mean, draw attention and draw it somewhere else and invest this money in something else. Please go to a place which has the carrying capacity.
Professor Vaidyanathan, have you not heard even one legitimate argument that would make you pause and wonder, maybe this same spectacular World Culture Festival could simply be held somewhere else?
Your point is valid, Barka, but you should have made this point 1 year before. What were all the government agencies, NGT, activists, and my army friends were doing for all this 1 year?
Good question.
In 2016, you should have held this. 2016 beginning or 2015 end.
I think Anand wants to answer you.
You should have held this program.
Anand wants to answer
and
you.
brought out all the issues.
Yeah.
Professors.
And our good friend is telling 48.4 million cusacks of water and other thing. These estimates would have been available given the 35 lakh original estimate for him. Why today?
Anand, why today?
No,
Anand, why today?
This is what is my question. The second
Professor,
is, I think one of your
let me answer one question.
Technically on this ground,
I do not appreciate that.
For a moment,
I would like to express my reservation. He told this is not culture. He cannot define what is culture.
Well,
Okay.
I think
And
then
my
the
army
culture
friend, I
part you
would
will have to
humbly
debate with my
request him
wife.
to know
I mean, she
that
can.
Jakur Air
she
Force
can-
base
Ajay,
is
Ajay,
a
that's for
private
you.
one.
Sorry,
No.
Professor Vaidyanathan, to your army friend, you want to say what?
I would like my army friend to come over to Bangalore and visit Jakur Air Force base.
It is a
It's
private,
not a private one.
airfield. It is not the Air Force base. There's a separate one, and the Jakur airfield
come
where
to Bangalore. I would
where
invite
the where that function was held is a civilian airfield.
Okay, now why now? The why now question.
Why now? That's the question.
Yeah.
You see, as I told you right in the beginning, it is when the state fails to do its job,
Yeah.
and it becomes visible on ground or in any manner, that people like us get aware of it, that somebody is doing. Otherwise, I would assume
That the state
that
would do its job.
that the state would do its job.
Yeah.
Now, the state was ordered not only to perform their legal and statutory duty, it became their duty under a judicial order of NGT in January 2015.
Yeah.
Now, so from 2015, Yamuna was declared as a no-go region. You won't go.
But what's curious is
then why did it happen?
But what's curious, sir, is
And-
why the permission was denied in November and then suddenly given in December. I don't know if anyone has any clarity on that.
Okay.
Why was
I mean,
this?
we didn't know this. We didn't have the papers.
the clarity.
And
Do you have the clarity
okay.
on
Yes,
that?
I have the
Do you want
clarity.
to answer that?
See, initially when we sought permission on this Barka, we were immediately, the authorities came forward and they said yes to it. Thereafter, there was some reservation as to check it out whether it is in line with the NGT directions.
Yeah.
And there were legal, legal
But then,
opinions
but
sought on this.
now the people who gave you a permit are talking about 120 crore penalty. So if everything
But
is
that
in
is-
order,
this is
one
something
minute,
different,
one minute. If the DDA believes that there is no violation, why today before the tribunal have they spoken of 120 crore penalty? There's a contradiction
Barka,
there.
this is different. The
If there
authority
are
which
no
has given
violations,
permission
there should be no
completely.
penalty.
Let me,
Completely.
Barka, I
I'll
think
come back to
it's
this
not a
question.
secret because there were hundreds of media people
Yeah.
listening to it. The one question which the NGT had asked today
Yeah.
was that why the permission which was given once was withdrawn.
Exactly. That's the question I'm asking.
So then, for whatever reasons, it was NGT,
I'm exactly
the
asking that,
chairperson,
Barka, the
who
reason completely.
explained
He's
that
right.
the DDA had withdrawn that permission on the grounds that this was within the 25-year floodplain area.
Right.
And where NGT has prohibited every
But then
activity.
therefore I come
Now,
back to-
so the question which NGT was asking, that there was a reason for denial of that
So
withdrawal
what
of permission.
changed? So what changed? Shaina, do you want to
Now
come in on
that is
And
the
that's where
question which
government's-
has to be answered to NGT tomorrow.
Okay, Shaina, very quickly, everybody gets 30 seconds for last comments. Shaina, I'll start with you.
I just want to make a very limited point. You know, one of your panelists said that how they go bird watching, etc., and how good it is. So I'm sure there are lakhs and lakhs of people that also want to come for a cultural festival and feel a part of spirituality and good learning as part of an experience too. At the cost of the environment, clearly not. Tribunal to decide whether it is in accordance with all the stipulations. From what I gather and what I read about Art of Living, they have adhered to all the parameters. They're using only
But then why are they
eco-friendly
being asked to pay
material,
120
even for the
crores even by the
construction of
people who gave them
stage,
the permit?
etc. No, so
No,
let the
not
courts
those
decide.
people.
No,
It's
Balka,
like
I think that
authority is different and
let the
expert
court
panel is
decide
different.
whether. I only want to raise one point, that when the DDA and the Delhi government does give permission for an event of this magnitude, where you have the international world community also coming to participate,
Okay.
and then on the eve of it to say that, you know, so many things are going wrong, I'm sure everyone, including the activists on your show and on your panel, also had
Okay.
that time to kind of analyze and
I'm
raise this
short on
much
time and
earlier.
allow Bharti a
So
quick-
that in itself.
Yeah, thanks, Shaina. Bharti, quick response there.
All I say is that please, Art of Living, if you really care about the environment, you've already done a massive and irreversible amount of damage. But if you still care, even symbolically, be morally accountable. Don't have your event here. Postpone it. Find another venue, which is perhaps
Are you
Ram
open
Leela
to moving
grounds.
it? Saraswati, quickly, are you open to moving the event?
Had it been just a Delhi event, had it been just a city event, understand that already so many people have descended world over. There's already the process, it's already the ball is set rolling.
Well,
now,
please note that even the President of India has declined to come to your event.
just one
So please-
person,
he's
just
not
the honorable,
he's the
see,
head,
please understand,
he's the head of the country.
Please understand, but he has not quoted the reason of his not coming related to the
But the
NGT.
president
all
is not
like
just
that.
one person.
The
The
president-
president is not just one person.
See, please understand.
The president is the supreme commander of the military.
Absolutely,
He's the
but
highest
in all honor,
constitutional head.
Barkha, once again he has his protocol, and in terms of his protocol
I-
today, he abstained from coming here. And one
Let-
more thing I
will-
want to know.
Will
See,
this
all of
answer
us-
be the same
and-
when NGT tomorrow holds that this
Okay, I've got
permission
it.
was illegal and it must be
Well, then the
moved?
court,
Then
of
what
course, has the
happens?
final
course.
word.
If you
Ajay,
want
wrap
to
this up.
want to
Ajay, wrap this up for us. I've got to close.
I just want to make the brief point that the military is involved in many kinds of aid to civil authority and always comes off getting kudos in earthquakes, natural disasters,
Even in
floods,
dark agitation,
counterinsurgencies.
yeah.
It does not want to get involved in controversial events like this. The people that we talk to within the military are all clear and unambiguous. They say we were ordered to do this. We do not want to do this. So the military doesn't like being involved in this. It should not be involved in this.
All right, we will have to leave it here. We may have a clearer perspective from the Green Tribunal tomorrow, and I think they will have to have the last word on this. We leave it there. We're taking a quick break. On the other side, the first 3 women who are all set to fly fighter jets in the Indian Air Force making history. They're up next in a moment from now. Welcome back. You're watching The Buck Stops Here. And on International Women's Day, the Indian Air Force is set to make history. In particular, 3 women officers of the Air Force who are all set to become the first fighter pilots of the military. The Air Force, of course, taking the lead in the services to allow women into combat roles. Welcoming from us now to the buck stops here, we welcome Bhawana, Kanth, Avani Chaturvedi and Mohana Singh, who are, as we said, going to create history by becoming the first Indian women fighter pilots in the not too distant future. In fact, the formalization of that process as early as June. Let me start by asking all 3 of you, what made you come forth and do this? On this program, we have always been strong advocates of opening the doors to women in combat, to women in all roles, whichever roles that they dream of. But what made you volunteer and come forward to do this? Let me start with you, Bhavna.
Ma'am, for me it was a childhood dream, and once I got the opportunity, I didn't take a second to grab it, and here I am.
And Avani, let me ask you, eventually, you know, like the men, you'll be flying supersonic jets. They could range from the Mirage 2000 to the Sukhois. Is there any element of fear or apprehension that you're entering a male bastion? Or do you worry about how the men may react, that men who've been very friendly with you so far may now suddenly get terribly insecure, as men sometimes do?
Fighter pilots are not made to fear and be worried about anything. We just made to make decisions and apply our skills. So it is not at all any point of worry. It is all just adventure and flying.
All just adventure and flying. Mohana, what would you say? Because all these years, there has in fact been a lot of resistance. You've had all kinds of excuses. People have said, our society is not ready for it. We're culturally not ready for it. I want to ask you, Mohana, why was it so important for you to become a fighter pilot? Why is this something you really wanted to do?
I wouldn't say that it is very important to be a fighter pilot because, first of all, we are not here to prove something. We are here to pursue our dreams. And probably this will motivate other people who may have such dreams, and if they don't have it, then probably they build new dreams. And that's all I would like to say.
Now, Mohana, let me ask you, you know, all these years when we have been actually advocating for women to be inducted into combat roles in all of the three services, some of the reasons that we would hear as to why this is not practical is some people would argue that what if there's a war and women are taken POWs, is the country equipped to deal with that? Others would say there are practical problems like maternity leave and so on. So there was always something that was found to hold against women, to keep women back from realizing their potential. So Mohana, when you hear these kind of things, if they're said to you, how do you respond?
Till now, as far as the journey till now is concerned, we have not yet encountered such things. And it is a very basic stage of training. Right now, we are being trained to be flyers first, then fighter pilots. And after this stage, subsequently, whatever operations come, whatever we are felt suitable for would be allotted to us, and things would be taken care.
And Bhawana, therefore, do you feel that it's finally time that we do allow women in combat roles, that this is your moment?
Ma'am, I don't think it's time now. I think it was time then, it was time since forever. And the fact that the decision has come now doesn't make it the time now. It's you know, I would be repeating things if I recall history. So that would be it, ma'am.
So you're actually saying that ये बहुत पहले होना चाहिए था.
I'm saying that it's a good thing that decision have come at least now.
Good. I agree with you. What would you like to say to the skeptics? There'll be enough skeptics. They won't say it openly, but they'll whisper. They'll say women, you know, this is not really right for women, or they have all kinds of, you know, ifs and buts. Bhavana, what would you say to the skeptics?
Ma'am, skeptics will continue to do what they do, and we will continue to do what we do and do the best. And well, that shuts them up.
Well, more power to all of you, all three of you, and may you fly higher and higher. I think we're all very proud of you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Buck Stops here.
Thank you, ma'am.